Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
My job is all about purpose.
Just the ability to make a difference, to help someone be able to go home at the end of the day.
My great-grandfather started the volunteer fire department in Springfield, Nebraska. My grandmother was a nurse. My uncle was a fire chief in Atlanta, Georgia. So somewhere down the line, it was my purpose to be doing this.
Yeah, we're a family here.
The data we get from Rapid SOS is life-saving.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact of the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
I was like, headset off and just sobbed. And I mean, I let it all, I couldn't even control myself. It was so many emotions of like, what just happened? Because you don't train for that. There's no rape in progress training. It's never even something you really think you're gonna come across. Or like, if you do, it's a witness. Oh my God, I see this guy raping this girl, not somebody that it's happening to. And my lead was like, you did everything. She's like, you pulled everything from inside of you, and she's like, I want you to know you did everything you could. And I didn't feel like it at the time. I was like, I felt so helpless. Like, I was like, I didn't help her enough. And she was like, you did. She's like, you got her help. She's alive.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. And this episode is sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid SOS. And I was just thinking, I didn't even realize I have this big old thing over here. We're not sponsored by any of those or anything, okay? So just so everybody knows. But if you want to, that's cool too. But again, we are sponsored by InDigital and Rapid SOS. Big shout out to subscribers as always for everything. And we are currently recording live from within the saloon dining area building here at the Meagan Ranch in Bandera, Texas. And we're here for the 911 leadership training event that is put on by Joe Serio of the 360 Dispatcher, and I have my guest here today. My guest is Meagan. She is a 911 professional out of Kansas. How are you doing?
Good.
I am very happy to be here with you, but also I got to ask right off the bat, how have you been enjoying this?
It's great. It's been a great experience.
What are some of the things that just, I don't know, I guess maybe just jumped out at you? Like, even when you were pulling up, I know the first time I got here, it was at night, but even though it was at night when I first got here, the very first time, I thought this is going to be different. It's
Yeah.
going to be completely different than any training I've ever been
For
to.
sure. It's so much more relaxed than a normal training, and I feel just almost at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's very homey. There's animals everywhere you walk.
Yes.
People are all happy here. It's been very pleasant. So
That
far.
is awesome. That is excellent to hear. We, like Joe said earlier today, all of you are the reason that we do this. Like, you guys are our why, and it's been a good week already. It's Wednesday,
Yeah.
and it's already, we're going the last couple
I
days.
know.
It's crazy. Yeah. So how many years do you have in public safety?
Almost 8.
8 years.
Yep.
So we can go back in time just a little bit. How did you get into public safety to begin with?
My family's in public safety. My dad's been a firefighter since I was probably, 8 or 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle was in corrections. My grandpa was a firefighter in the Navy. Like, it's just kind of been in my family. My sister was a fire dispatcher.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of called to me.
Service from all over the place. That
Yeah.
is awesome. Are there some things that you remember growing up as a kid, whether it be, seeing them take off on a hot call or for a hot call, or, hearing radio traffic? Like, was there any of that, or it was just like, my family is in public safety?
My dad was a volunteer firefighter to start out. So I
Yeah.
remember him running out of the house. And I always remember thinking, my dad's a hero.
Yeah.
Like, I just, you see him run out when they get that call, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, my dad's a hero, no matter what he's going to. Like, that, it made me proud of him and who he was, and I wanted to be like him.
That is awesome. I love that. That is very cool. So you grew up with it. You remember this. So then, were you approached by any of your family members, like, hey, maybe you should try this, or was it
My
just kind of in
sister.
your head already?
Yeah, my sister, when she was in fire dispatch, I was loss prevention.
Mm-hmm.
I hated my job. No offense to loss prevention out there. I mean,
Right.
I did it for like 6 or 7 years. It was just becoming a lot. Criminals were getting worse and scarier, and I had a gun pulled on me, and I was like, I don't want to be a cop anymore, because I
Oh.
had thought I wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
And my sister's like, why don't you come dispatch? She's like, it's a good job. And I was like, you're right. And that day, the day the gun was pulled on me, I applied.
Oh, geez.
Yep.
It was all right.
It made an impact. It sure did.
Especially if it happened, that one day. So then,
Yeah.
how long did it take for you to hear back then?
The whole process was almost 6 months. So, I mean, I stayed in loss prevention for those 6 months and went through the whole step after step, the polygraph and the background test and the panel interviews. And it was a lot. And I almost regretted it. And then I was like, no, this will be fine. And I got through.
Wow.
Actually, I got 3 agencies that contacted me almost right at the same time.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So, okay, hold on a minute. So did you applied at 3 different ones, or just the one?
I sure did. All 3. I was done with loss prevention. I was like, I'm going to get somewhere, wherever it is.
I mean, that's got to say a lot, though, that all 3 called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually passed all 3 of their tests. It was pretty crazy. And then I had to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, do I want to be in Missouri or do I want to be in Kansas? Because they're both right next to each other,
Right,
and I applied
yeah.
at both. So, but I decided, my sister's over here. I want to be with her.
Nice. So, and you've been with the same agency for the whole time then?
No, I was with that first agency for almost 4 years, and then I've been at another agency for almost 4 years.
Nice. So that first one, did you get to do a sit-along or anything?
Yeah, they pull you in for a sit-along. You get to sit with the phones person, and they kind of take you around the room and explain everything. So you get to hear a little bit.
Now, did
Right at the
anything
beginning.
happen, though?
No.
No. Damn it.
My sit-along was seriously quiet. They were like, oh, you're calm. We like
and
you.
you just said the
I
Q
did.
word, so
I said that
something is
word.
going to happen around
I said that.
here.
I'm
Yeah.
not at work, so I can say.
This is true, yes, yeah.
I was the calm back then, and then it changed.
That is, I love that you end up choosing to be where family is and all, and you spend that time, and you actually got to do a sit-along, and even though there wasn't anything going on, you still stuck with it.
Right.
So that is a good thing as well, because sometimes people, just from my experience, people will go in, there's like, there's nothing really going on, and we'd always say, no, this is not what it's really like. Like, when it hits the fan, it really hits the fan.
They called me the white cloud.
Oh.
They were like, oh, she's a white cloud.
Okay, so this is the first time probably ever, I think. This is probably going to be episode 600 something, but it might be the first time that I've heard someone say that they were the white cloud.
But I lost it very quickly. Just that day.
Okay, this tracks. That day?
Just that day.
No.
My first day in was chaos.
Oh man. Okay. Before we get to the chaos, so you got to do the sit along. There was nothing that was happening, nothing going on or anything like that. But you end up going back, obviously, for more. How was the training in the beginning? Like, was there? But also, when you walk in, for those who are watching and listening, what is it that you see? You walk in. Are there multiple people working at the same time? Are there like 20 monitors? Not 20 monitors, but a lot of monitors, keyboards. Like, what is it that you're seeing? And also, did you feel nervous or overwhelmed at all?
When I did my sit along, not really. Once I started, yes. I mean, there were, there's 100 monitors, and there's constant noise, and that was something that was hard to get used to. Is there's always chatter, and there's always radio noise and phone noise. So the constant noise was a lot, but you adjust to it, and then you don't hear it anymore, and it's it's just background at that point. But yeah, it was hard at first, and my very first call I answered was one of their regulars that has mental problems, and he cut his wrist while he was on the phone with me, and I was just like deer in headlights. I hadn't really experienced something like that, and my trainer was like, "Oh, you're not a white cloud." And I was like, almost like, what do I do? And she kind of worked me through it. She obviously was right there with me, but I was just like, okay, we're going in, like, this is it. And then, it progressed from there. So, I mean, I got that was my very first call I answered. And then I answered another one, and it was a mental facility where somebody had gotten a hold of the phone and told me he was standing in a ring of fire. And I was like, oh, what? And she laughed at me because I was gullible at that moment.
Yeah, of course.
And so I had to learn. It was a big learning experience.
Yeah, but also you never know. Like,
right.
Someone could be.
That could be.
Yeah, someone could be saying that. I mean, it's 911. Anything can happen in 911. So that's why, we're always like, you got to take every single call, no matter how outrageous it sounds. Like it's real. Like something is going on. Like, can you imagine if the person would have been standing in the middle of a ring of fire?
And it was a landline, so she giggled because she had seen the landline and knew where it was.
They knew,
but I
the
didn't
person.
know that, and I was just like, what? And she's like, send him over to the fire department, and then she got a good laugh afterwards.
See, and it's interesting with a lot of times when people call in and you know who they are, you know kind of the time that they call in and stuff, and you're like, some of this happens. And I think what's good as well with some of those calls is that if you don't know, and I had something similar where there was a lady who called, she was in a trailer park, and I had never spoken to her before, and I was newer at this agency, and she was screaming that there were two guys who were trying to get into her trailer, and we're like, so we have to remain calm, right?
Right.
But in the back of my mind, I'm freaking out for this lady, and because obviously she's freaking out too, and so I've got everybody heading out there, and it was just at shift change. So the sergeant who was getting ready to leave, he tells us, like, Central, go to secondary, which is where, for us, at least our channel, our secondary channels, where we would give extra information.
Right.
And so he tells us to go over there, and I'm talking to the lady who's freaking out, and she, before the sergeant, because the other ear is listening for what the sergeant's going to say, but before he ends up saying something, I hear her say, they're getting into the house right now. So I'm typing this in the narrative, and my heart is just pounding, like, please get there. And I said, where are they? The front door still, right? And she goes, no, they haven't been trying to get through the front door. And I said, okay, was it the back door then instead? And in my head, I'm like, did I miss this?
Right.
And she goes, no, they've got chainsaws and they're trying to get up from underneath through the living room. Hold up. Like, I'm sorry, ma'am. Like, wait a minute. And so she was like, she was making noises. Like, not the chainsaw noise or anything, but you could hear her like pounding.
Yeah.
Like something was pounding, but it ended up being her.
Right.
So a little bit after that, the sergeant tells us, she has some mental issues.
Yeah.
So I'll head over there as well. I know the family, I know her, and so that was a good thing for him being there because he knew her and he knew the family. It was easier to de-escalate the whole thing.
Right.
But like you, I had never talked to this person before.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. And after that specific incident, we ended up putting in our in-house computer her name, family, phone numbers, and the issues and stuff, so that when they would call in, there would be a flag that would come up so that we
Right.
would know. So yeah, so like you, I feel you.
Yeah.
It's,
If you don't know any better, it's like
right.
that initial panic.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So you end up going from the white cloud to now
To not.
to not, kind of a little bit of a magnet maybe
Yes,
in the beginning.
I had that name.
Oh.
My captain joked all the time over there that she was going to make me a plaque that said "shit magnet."
Nice.
I was that person, but I could handle it, and
Yeah.
that was the only point she made. She's like, "But
Yeah.
you handle it well,
Right,
and
exactly.
that's all that matters."
See, I
Yep.
dig that. Yeah, there's always one, maybe two of those magnets that are
Yep.
there, or the dark cloud, you know,
Yep.
whichever. So you start out that way. Now, just to kind of paint the picture as well, this first center, are you doing police, fire, and EMS, like all disciplines, or was it just fire? Was it
Just police. So
just
we
police?
answered
Okay.
everything and then transferred over. Fire and EMS was in the same building as us, but we
Mm-hmm.
didn't handle their calls. So we would
Ah,
start
okay.
the call and then transfer them right over.
See, and that's an interesting thing for me specifically, and maybe those who are watching and listening, those that are kind of in my boat, where we did all three disciplines. So we would have it all. But to just do police and then pitch it over to whoever,
Yes.
and then it's like, it's done.
Right.
It's, there's some stuff that you miss out on,
Yes.
especially medicals.
And I went for 6 months and I worked at Fire and Medical for a county out in Kansas, and I was
Yeah.
like, nope, this isn't for me. And I went right back to just a police only.
Yeah.
So I have dabbled in it, but it was not for me.
So did you feel, though, as you were going through all of that in the beginning, that you were dialed in, kind of like around the 2, maybe 3 year mark?
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like,
I feel like it takes 2 years to at least.
yeah, you can
become
you
a
can
dispatcher.
learn a bunch of stuff. You can go to trainings and everything, but there's still those nervousness. Not that we don't get nervous with
Right.
other calls or anything, but you really feel like you're dialed in.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was a moment at all where, in the beginning, or maybe even when you went to your next agency that you've been at for these last 4 years and stuff, like something that happened that maybe you can pinpoint that it solidified that you were in the right place, like you were doing what
Yeah.
you're meant to do, I guess.
I would say I had a lot. So I was in a pretty high crime agency my first several years, and I experienced almost all of it, I would say. I mean, my third weekend on training, we had an officer involved and 2 deputies got killed. So, I mean, it was harsh. And I remember the manager walking up to me and she's like, I can't remember your name very well, but please don't leave. And that was it.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, and it wasn't, to her, I was just a trainee at the time. They had a lot of turnover, and it was kind of how it was there. And then my trainer was like, we need to talk, and took me aside, and we really talked about it. So just at that 3-week point, we hit hard and they had a double loss, 2 of their deputies. I mean, it was rough.
And you said this
I
was
didn't
2 weeks
understand
in?
it. 3 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, I
3
was on my
weeks in.
3rd week of training.
Jeez.
And I didn't understand a lot at that point, but
Yeah.
I understood that it was not a good situation, and it hit hard in the dispatch center. And so I learned a lot about everybody through that situation. And I watched, it was like a beehive. That's the only way I can describe it. It was kind of interesting for me. So I was sitting with the lead that day because my trainer, ironically, was in officer down training.
Oh.
And so she sat me with the lead while she was in training. And so I got to watch the whole room just buzz. And my lead was like, I don't know where you're at in training, but if you can answer phones and help us and even put them on hold, go right ahead. So I was answering phones, and if I could help them, I did. If not, I put them on hold. And I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
I was 3 weeks in,
Yeah.
But it was enough that I could help. But I just kind of watched the room and observed, and I mean, it buzzed like a beehive, and everybody worked together, and seeing that teamwork, and I was like, I want to be part of this.
Hell yes.
3 weeks in, I was like, this is what I want. I want to be a part of this. I want to help people, and I want to be a team.
Wow.
It was intense. And that was 3 weeks in, and I mean, it only grew from there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's those moments where I'll put it this way. So I've been out of dispatch for I think 12 years now, and but I still keep in touch with some of the dispatchers that I used to work with, and every so often I will send them a message and I'll say, hey, I really cherished every moment that we had. Like, we went through some shit that no one else will ever understand.
Right.
And I feel like in that same sense, it's like that with you as well, with all those people, that feeling, like you said, the beehive and everything, but everyone working like a well-oiled machine. No one else will ever understand those moments except for all of you. Yeah, we've got similar stories, right? But you guys, you go through different things.
Yeah. And I mean, not everybody in that room gets along. They're not all friends. They're not all, but at that moment you do.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Nothing matters but doing your job.
Exactly.
And that to me was like, okay, I've heard this person chat, or I've heard this, but it didn't matter at that moment. And that's what I liked. Is you were a team no matter what.
Coming together, it's like that, like kind of grounded foundation of camaraderie that's there, because you all want everyone to go home as safe as possible.
We all have the same goal.
Yeah. Sometimes the result might not be what you want, right? But you were there for each other and there for those out in the field, or your caller, or whichever. Oh man, you really jumped into
to
dispatch.
I jumped in hard and
Jeez.
fast. Yeah, I mean there was pursuits right off in my training. I had multiple pursuits, and I was at the end of my training, and my trainer was like, I want to release you so bad, but I want one more pursuit. And I was like, let's do it today.
Way to manifest it.
She goes, okay. And we went and sat back down from our meeting, and I hit a pursuit. I mean, just like that. It was a workplace that called, and they said, we have a disgruntled employee. We're worried he's going to show back up. He made threats. So our officers kind of sitting like, here's the building, and they were kind of sitting off here, and this guy just rammed my officer. They hadn't even made contact with him. This guy was so angry that he got fired. He rammed my officer, and it was an officer in training at that.
What?
With his trainer. And I was like, all right, trainer, like, this is going to go. And he chased him all the way across state line into Missouri. And he was throwing stuff out of the car, and it was like and my trainer was standing up away from me, and she was like, you're doing this. And it was like a 25-minute pursuit, which is long if you know.
Oh, for sure.
That was a big pursuit, and I did it all by myself. And as soon as we were done and they caught him, and like we unpatched and all of that, like the whole room roared, and I was just like, this is so cool, you know? And she's like, you're released. That was it.
Damn.
It was so cool.
That is amazing.
It was a proud moment. She was like, be proud of yourself. She was like, that was a huge pursuit, and you did it all by yourself. It was
well
cool.
done.
Yeah.
Well done. That is excellent, because sometimes those are short ones, right? Just as intense and everything, but for a 25-minute one, for those who are watching and listening that are not in public safety, there's a lot of people in the general public that watch and listen to this as well. When you're doing a pursuit, like, some officers are different, but and some dispatch centers are different as well, but at least for mine, when they're chasing and you're the main person on the radio, you're repeating the traffic from the officer that's doing the main chase. And I mean, I would say probably one of my longest ones was maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. But for 25 minutes,
it was long.
And to be listening,
and multiple agencies involved.
Yeah, you're listening to the radio, but you're listening to everybody else, and anybody else who keys up or something like that. You might even be getting some MCT messages on your computer with people saying, get this or that or whichever. But for you, your main focus is the person who's in pursuit, and everything they say, cross streets, southbound on this or northbound on that or whichever, you're repeating it. Yes, the speeds.
Throwing stuff out here, I'll never forget. It was the funniest thing. So Kansas City, Missouri got in with us to back us up, and the officer goes, he's flipping me the bird. And I was like, do I type that? I'm going to type it in. It was the funniest thing. It just, I'll never forget that. It was one of my longest pursuits I ever had, and I was a trainee, and it completed my training.
That is awesome.
It was cool.
It's a little bit of the comic relief in an intense situation. And, we don't think about it sometimes, but sometimes we need that little bit.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, back to it. Back at it.
Yeah.
It's just that split second of humor, and then you just continue going.
Yep, it was funny. I was just like, I'm gonna type it in there.
And what I love about that too is that I used to do the same thing. Like if whatever call it was that I was taking, and someone was just swearing up a storm, as they're explaining, I would type it all in there.
Quotation marks.
And some of the supervisors, the other supervisors, they would say, "Why do you put everything in there like that?" And I'm like, well, it's not to see if the radio person will trip up and read it. It's just because it's kind of funny to me, but also, and this was my excuse, I would say, what if it goes to court?
Yeah,
They're
it's
going to want to know.
documentation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's documentation.
Yep.
They're going to want to know. And they're like, okay, loophole. I'm like, yep, loophole.
I put everything in quotation marks.
Exactly, yeah.
Not for
I'm
me.
just doing my job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep. For sure.
So when you left that first center, you said you were there for 4 years. You've been at this other one going on 4 years as well now. And so when you switched, was this new center just police as well?
Yes.
Oh.
So I did the 6 months in between these two of just EMS and fire, and it was just not for me. And I was 6 months in, I was close to finishing training, and I was like, can't do this.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. It was a lot of CPR and a lot of just, it felt like pure sadness to me. And I couldn't take away from that and be happy. So I was like, I need to go back to police. I need my crazy police side.
Yeah.
It sounds different, but like I couldn't do the medical side. It was not for me. So I went right back to we're police only. I mean, we answer the medical calls, we transfer over. We stay on with them a lot of times, especially if it's like an overdose or somebody that's not breathing, but we don't dispatch fire and medical. So
I always liked police as well, especially on radios, any of those calls that would come in. But I could do me some fire. I could do medicals. I wouldn't say medicals were my favorite because, as you said, and that's a good way to put it. There is a lot of sadness with that. Whether it be, someone wakes up and they find a loved one who's passed away.
yeah.
Do you
It's
think that they're
special people.
beyond?
I mean, it takes special people to deal. And I got to deliver a baby while I was over there, so it was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was breech, and it was like her
Even a
sixth
breech
baby.
one.
It was her sixth baby, and she woke up in the middle of the night, foot out. And
That's got to be the
it was
weirdest thing.
so
I
cool.
can't even imagine.
I mean, I love that part. I was like, I got to deliver a baby, and like some of the dispatchers, they were like, we haven't done that our whole career, and I was like, I guess I just tracked it all.
Yeah, and
but-
you're like, all right, later, I'm going to
Yeah.
another one.
Peace out. Did my goal.
Yes.
So it was pretty cool. I actually had two babies. I had that one and one in a car. And it
What?
popped out right as I was answering, and it was interesting. I was like, but
See.
still wasn't for me.
That is really cool because that is something that you will always have with you as well.
yeah.
You're like, mark it off on my
Yeah,
bingo
yeah.
card. Like I got that as
That's
well.
right.
Yes. So you end up doing that, and really quick. Let me finish this part though. Yeah, the medical piece. Those were one of the hardest calls though, because he's just like a mom or a dad, whichever parent, who is freaking out because their kid is choking.
Yeah.
And then you got to help them, of course, with the Heimlich and everything else that's going on. And I've said this story before, but it's one that just always sticks with me. This mom called hysterical, just freaking out because her kid is choking, which, granted, she should be freaking out, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, I have this.
I'm helping her, but what I hear is,
The back blows.
yeah, the back blows, and I'm like, no,
makes me
ma'am.
cringe.
Like, don't do that. And she goes, do you want me to let him just fucking choke? And I'm like, no, I'm going to help you. No, we did get it dislodged. And she said thank you afterwards, and she's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, thank you. And I was like, you don't have to be sorry. Like, I might have done the same thing, I
Right.
might have been freaking out
Well,
as well. and
TV
saying
conditions
whatever.
everybody to do the wrong thing.
You see what you see on TV. Yeah, exactly.
It-
So you're at the new agency, and things are, going along. Are you still are you a cloud there as well at the new agency?
Not
or
as
no?
bad.
No,
It's
no.
leveled out. It is occasionally, when I was on day shift, I was a little bit of a cloud, and I'm on mids right now, and it's not been bad. So
I was going to say, which is your favorite then?
I worked all 4 years mids at my first agency, and I loved it. I thrived on that busy chaos, crazy. It was a high crime agency. We
Yeah.
had a lot of busy.
Wow.
And then I came to this agency and started on days, and I was like, oh, this isn't bad. Oh, I kind of like this. And now I'm back on mids, and I'm like, oh, I don't miss those report calls during the day. So it kind of depends,
Yeah.
It depends on what time of year,
It has
for
its
sure.
moments.
In the wintertime, a lot of cars get stolen, so being on days in the wintertime kind of stinks. Whereas, like, being on mids in wintertime, it just, nothing happens, really. So it's
Yeah.
like, it depends. I'm on mids the rest of the year. I go back to days in January, so I
Yep.
kind of fluctuate. We have to fluctuate. You can do up to 3 on the same and then 1 off. So they make you bid 1 off
okay.
so that you get that experience and understand both shifts, which is nice. I hated it at first. I was like, I just want to be on mids. and now I'm like, I have experience that I never had at my other agency working days here. So it's a good thing.
Are you 8 or 12s?
We do 2 8s, 2 12s. Or we do 4 10s. We have both.
Interesting.
Yep.
So
we have 3 days off, no matter what.
So then your mids, would that be like a 2 to 10 or like a 1 to 1?
So we have a couple of variable shifts. So right now, like I'm 6 to 6, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. on my 12s. And then I am 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. on my 8s. But there's also one that comes in at 6 p.m. and works till 2 a.m. So they fluctuate to make everybody kind of work.
Oh, interesting.
And we bid out by seniority, and we bid out for a whole year.
Dang. Okay, so the nights going in, like I used to dig some of the 1P to 1A shifts that we would do at my old center, but then I was like, I'm missing too much time, like with my kids and stuff. So I tried to switch it up, and then when I got promoted, I was working 4:30 to 4:30 which has its pros and cons. But in the morning, especially because whenever it would snow, and the fact that our dispatch center was in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
the road commission isn't going out that early, and there's snow everywhere. So I'm like, do I risk it? Do I risk going and getting stuck, or do I risk staying here for a few hours and then someone calling in and me getting forced over?
Right.
So it was always, I'm gonna risk the ditch.
Well, they would send officers to our house to pick us up at my first agency.
For
You weren't
real?
missing work. If you lived within certain boundaries, which you had to there,
Yeah.
they would send them out to pick you up.
Holy moly.
Yep, you weren't missing work for the snow.
Jeez. So when my old center, before they split from the sheriff's department, they were located basically in an attic space. The way they put it, attic space closet on the top level of the jail.
Wow.
And it was super old from what they told me. But when there was like blizzard weather, the dispatchers who lived in town, close enough, the deputies would get on snowmobiles and go and pick them up.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
freaking crazy,
That's
man.
crazy.
Yeah, luckily I lived 45 minutes away, so they weren't going to go and pick me up
Right.
like that. But they would tell me, you need to at least get to this specific spot, and we'll have someone go and get you. And one of those days I said, no, I think I'll be able to make it. But it was a whiteout. And I'm driving on this main like state highway going towards the dispatch center. And to the right is a snowplow on its side with the driver standing on top on his phone. And I just remember saying, Lord, if that person can't make it, how am I going to make it? And I had like bald tires at the time too, on this little car that I was driving, but I made it.
It's
Dispatch has
wild.
got
What
to
we can
make
do.
it.
You know what? We do what we got to do.
Oh,
I drove
man.
in ice this past year. This year we had ice at the beginning of the year, and I mean it laid on thick real fast. And I drove home in the ice, and it was a 20-minute drive usually, and it took me an hour and 20 minutes to get home. And my hands hurt from gripping
you're
the
white
steering
knuckling
wheel.
it?
Oh man, got home and I couldn't straighten my hands. My now husband, he was like, "Go sit down, just go breathe."
Relax.
Because he was like, "You're ghost white." He's like, "I can tell you stressed your whole
Right,
drive
it's
home."
like you are clear right now. Like,
Yeah, he's like, just go in the other room.
oh, geez.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, a lot of good times. But there's always the other side of dispatch as well. That I would say that dispatch sometimes has a good balance, but it doesn't. There are way more harder, chaotic calls, right, than anything else.
Yeah.
But I always say it's good for us to hold on to our wins as well.
Right.
Because when shit is hitting the fan and you're like, am I in the right place? You can reflect on some of those wins to get through it. So as we were talking in the beginning and even before we started recording and stuff, actually a couple days ago, we were talking about this. As long as you still feel comfortable, a call that sticks with you.
Yeah. So it was my first agency. I was 2.5 years in or so I was comfortable. I mean, I knew my job. We were actually under remodel and not in our building. So we were at another agency. I had just sat down for my shift. I was phones that night. We were short-staffed. It was, typical dispatch. And I answered the phone, and it was this girl crying. And she was crying for help, and I couldn't understand her at first. And I was like, I need to know where you are. And it was shift change. So officers were on shift change. We were all sitting down settling, and I could see that she was at an apartment complex according to where she was pinging. And I was like, I need to know where you are. And I was like, what's happening? And she couldn't tell me at first. She said there was somebody inside of her apartment. And I was like, okay, so I know at this point we've at least got either a domestic situation or a burglary or something. And I kept telling her I needed and I could hear noises that just didn't sound right. And I was like, what is happening? And she said, he's on me. And at that point I was like, on you? Is he attacking you? And she's like, he's raping me. And it took a minute because you don't take rapes in progress. And I know you probably you take after.
Right, yeah.
You take after when it happens. And to put in my head so he's actively raping you. And so I fought right then and there. I need your apartment. I'll get your address. I need your apartment. And I got her to think clear enough to give me her apartment number. And I repeated it back, I feel like 100 times. Probably not, but several times to make sure I had the right apartment. Because that was all I cared about is I'll get them there and then we'll find her. And it was shift change. So I looked at my partner who was dispatching. I was like, they need to go. You need to tell them, forget shift change. Get them there. They need to go. And we went through everything I could possibly think of. I went through every self-defense, anything kind of tactic I could while I was on the phone with her as she begged me to help her and cried. And I could hear, it's going to sound harsh, I could hear him grunting and physically on top of her the whole time, and her cries. And I was like, poke him in the eye. I was like, I want you to take your thumb and I want you to shove it in his eye. Don't worry about what you feel. Just shove it in his eye as deep as you can. Didn't work. I was like, kick him in the balls with your knee. Hit him with your knee.
Yeah.
And giving her everything I could think of to fight him off. Well, it turns out he was on PCP. So if you know anything about PCP, it makes you non-human strong.
Right.
So there was no way she was going to get him off of her at this point. And I was trying, okay, what do I need here? So I was like, okay, describe him to me, because God forbid he runs. I want to at least know what. Well, he came in naked. Okay. And she was like, and she was like, she was struggling. And I was like, okay, listen, I need you to listen to my voice. I've got so much help on the way to you. I was like, they're coming as quick as they can, I promise. I know this feels like forever. I need to know what he looks like. And so she described him. And, the whole time he's still doing this. I mean, and I could hear it. And hearing that was so hard. And to not lose my focus, because I felt like I was there with her. I wasn't. And I felt helpless. And that's the most helpless I've ever felt on a call. Because, we help people. That's what we do.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't help this girl. And I had to, refocus after the fact. I did help her. And what she didn't tell me is he had a gun. He came in her house with a gun. And I don't know if she knew, because it was on the floor next to her bed. And, I kept trying to help her fight. And at this point, I felt like everybody in this dispatch center was staring at me, because I was loud. And I was thinking, if I can scare him off.
Yeah.
And I was like, put me on speakerphone. Am I on speaker? Put me. And I yelled at him, get off her. I have the police on the way. They're coming to get you. I tried everything I could think of. Didn't faze him. And so when my officers got on scene, I told my dispatcher, let me know when they're there. And she was like, they're there. And I was like, I need you to scream. I need you to scream as loud as you can because they're going to kick your door in. But I need to make sure they're where you are. And she screamed, and I heard the crash. And my officers just crashed in hard. And I heard one of my officers say, "Get the fuck off her." And I mean, I had goosebumps because I was like, she's safe. She's safe. I know she's safe. And then I heard my officers tumble with him, and they fought him hard. And I think it took about 6 officers to fight him. And I heard my officer yell, "There's a gun." And I was like, oh my God, there's a gun. That just like clicked in my head as like, oh my God, I sent my officers in somewhere where there's a gun and I didn't even know. So that was like huge on me.
Right.
Because you want them to be safe. You want them to know these things. And I don't even know if I think I asked her, the typical, does he have any weapons? But she may not have even seen the gun. And I don't know that she knew. And so they fought, and she was like, don't hang up, don't hang up. And I was like, I'm right here. I'm right here with you. You got to think, she's being raped by a man, and a bunch of men just beat her door down. That's terrifying. And I can't imagine the mindset she was in. And it was hard. And holding myself together, I had tears streaming down my face, but my voice was solid.
Yeah.
And I kept myself for her. I was like, you have to be here for her. And I listened to him fight, and then I listened to my sergeant, and I knew that voice. And he was like, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you. Cover yourself up. It's okay. Just stay right where you are. And I was like, listen, I promise you he's here to help. I'm going to let you go so he can help you. I was like, they're going to get this man out of your house, and then they're going to help you. I need you to not go to the bathroom. I need you to stay right where you are, and they're going to help you. And I let her go. And as soon as I did, I was like, headset off, and just sobbed. And I let it all. I couldn't even control myself. It was so many emotions of what just happened, because you don't train for that. There's no rape in progress training. It's never even something you really think you're going to come across, or if you do, it's a witness. Oh my God, I see this guy raping this girl, not somebody that it's happening to. And my lead was like, you did everything. She's like, you pulled everything from inside of you, and she's like, I want you to know you did everything you could. And I didn't feel like it at the time. I was like, I felt so helpless. I was like, I didn't help her enough. And she was like, you did. She's like, you got her help. She's alive. And I walked outside of the building because I was like, I need air. I was like, I can't answer the phone right now. I know I'm not competent to answer the phone for this next call. And I went outside and I cried. And a girl from another agency, she was fire EMS, came out and hugged me, and I lost it. And she's still my friend to this day. I'll never forget that hug. She made it out there before anybody from my own agency. And that hug was everything I needed in that moment. And it was like, I wish somebody could hug that girl. It was hard. And then I cooled down eventually, and she hugged me again, and she's like, I'm here. She's like, I know I don't work with you. I know you don't know me. She's like, my name is Carrie, and I'm here if you need me. And I'll tell you what, that girl's been in my life every day since. I went over and I worked over there for 6 months, and I gave her the biggest hug when I showed up. I was like, I'll never forget you. I was like, you hugged me when I needed it. And she knows to this day, I could walk up to that girl and get a hug any day. She was my life-saving moment right there, because I was spiraling. And I didn't know how to handle it because I had never done something like that before. And it was hard. And we don't get closure. So I didn't know what happened after that point. I walked away. I knew they got him, and I knew she obviously was going to go through a lot with detectives and stuff, but we don't get that closure. And they called the supervisor, obviously, because this was a big situation, and they brought up our emotional support puppy, and it licked the tears off my face. I remember that puppy was just all over me, licking the tears right off my face, and I loved on that puppy and sat on the floor and cried. And the detective was like, I want you to know they whooped his ass. She's like, they whooped his ass, and you saved her. And she's like, he was going to kill her. He had a gun. She's like, if you hadn't done that, she'd be dead. She's like, you fought and you got us there, and she's alive. And that was a lot. It wasn't closure, but it was what I needed to hear at the moment. And
Right.
it helped me through a lot. And it's hard as dispatchers. We're hard on ourselves, and we're like, it's just my job. It's just, we're the worst at that. I'm just doing my job.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and I've always been that mindset, but I had to on this one, let myself go, no, you saved her life. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't be here. And God knows what else he would have done. He was
Right.
on PCP. He had a gun. He could have went on a rampage that night. Could have broke into every apartment at that complex. And so I was like, I'm going to let myself have this one. You saved her life. And that helped get me through. And it was hard. I mean, high crime agency, you're going to go right into another hard call. And it was the beginning of my night. And they did. They're like, if you need to go home. And I was like, oh, no, we're shorthanded. Like, I'll go back in. Just give me an hour to cry it out and I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I did. I sat with my supervisor and the puppy and the detective. And I think I cried probably 3 more times that night, just randomly. I mean, it just kind of hits you as a roller coaster.
Right.
And it was hard. I mean, I was single. I lived by myself. I had family close, but it was just hard. And I was freshly dating my now husband. And he was like trying to be supportive as he can, but we didn't know each other that well. And he was great support. And my lead that night, I love her to death. We still talk, even though I don't work for that agency anymore. And she was very supportive, as she could be, but we were busy and it was what it was. But it was rough. And luckily COVID hit and I had a 10-day break because I was exposed. And and I'll tell you what, I sat in silence for 10 days. Off and on. I hardly ate. Every time I slept, I heard her cry. And it was hard. I heard her cry for years in my sleep. And I don't anymore. So I've dealt with it and processed it, but I don't think I'll ever forget it. I'll never forget the sound of her voice begging me for help. I'll never forget his awful noises in the background. The noises of my officers, me being scared for their lives. You don't typically hear them fighting because, they'll come on the radio, we're fighting one. Unless their mic keys up,
Yeah.
you don't typically hear that, but I heard it all. And so it was just levels of processing a horrible call. And it was hard. It was hard, and I held it in until I emailed you. I held it in. I mean, I had talked about it with, my husband and the girls at work all knew, and maybe I talked about it with a family member like my sister and my dad. My dad's a firefighter. He gets it. And I did. I cried to him so hard, and he was like, I don't know how to help you with this, but I'm here. He's like,
Right.
I don't deal with that. Maybe the after effects, but I'm here. So it was hard, and I held it in, and then I seen your I'm 911, and I read through them, and I'm like, I'm the right one. Because I feel like that's worthy of being on there.
Yeah.
Anything is, honestly. We deal with a lot, and everything affects everybody differently, but that was my demon call, and I hope I never have to do one again, but if I do, I know I can handle it.
Oh man.
It's hard.
I'm thank you right off the bat for not only what you do, but also for sharing this story. And just having the courage to be able to do it as well, because I'm a firm believer that a lot of our stories end up becoming someone else's inspiration. And, whether you are a trainer now or you become a trainer later or whichever, and someone else deals with something like that, you'd be able to tell them, you know what, I know how you feel, because I was there at one time as well. This is how I processed it. And I'm glad that you had a good support system, and that you had a puppy that you could
Hey, that was everything in that moment.
that you could love on as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing. A lot of times when you hear some folks when they're talking about their ESAs or emotional support animals that they have there, and sometimes people might hear it and be like, what does that actually help? It helps a lot, man.
Yeah, that center has 2 of those emotional support dogs, and they were just puppies in training at that time. They just got them, and I mean, it was magical that they had gotten them right before that happened, because it made a difference. And I mean, I had my puppies at home. I had a dog and a cat, and well, man, they were glued to me for those 10 days I was home on quarantine. They knew.
Yeah.
And I will say every dispatcher should have an animal, unless you're allergic or something.
Right, yeah.
Because they know. I
Yeah.
can come home from a hard day at work and my cats just know. They rub on me. Or my dog just looks at me and he's like, I'll bring you a ball. You know,
Right, like,
he's dumb, but
if you get something
he's gonna
out of
bring
it,
me a
I'll get
ball.
something out of it. Yeah.
You know, and so those moments were truly helpful. And that little dispatch puppy didn't know what he was doing other than
Yeah.
licking salt water off my face. But
Right.
by God, it got me through that moment.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you had that support system, because there are some places out there that they don't have
Yeah.
anything like that. So did you guys have any type of, I don't know, maybe debriefing on that, or it was just you've gone through it, you're process it the best that you can, and you just move on?
Unfortunately, at that time with that agency, dispatch was not included in anything. And they really didn't have good peer support either. I mean, you had like the big regional number that you could call, but
Yeah.
they really had poor peer support. And I know I talked to my captain about it at the point, because I was like, you know, this was a big mental toll on me. And she offered me to go talk to our psychiatrist, which is great.
Yeah.
I didn't go. I was like, I'm fine. Was I? No, not even close. Like I was, and I'll fully admit it. I was mentally not okay for a while. And it wasn't like suicide tendencies or anything like that. It was just, I didn't know how to process this.
Yeah.
So should I have been forced to go to that session? Yeah. Should I have had someone checking in on me even though it would have annoyed me? Yeah. So we talked about that, and from what I've heard, that agency's a lot better now. They include dispatchers in their debriefs, and
That's good.
and they have more peer support, and you know they have those dogs still that they bring in all the time. So they have improved since then. Was it the greatest at that time? No. And I got myself through it. I will say I relied heavily on myself and a few very close friends, including my lead that night. She was wonderful. She made sure I was okay. And she still checks on me to this day. I'm not there anymore, and you know, we still check on each other. So I had a support system, but if somebody didn't, I can imagine how hard that would be.
Right.
It would have been hard. Now, my current agency is amazing. We have peer support in-house, peer support they bring in out of house. We have debriefs that are mandatory during any big event. We have non-mandatory ones you can elect to choose, and they send you to the psychologist. Go make sure you're fit. Go make sure you're okay. And it's confidential.
I love that.
But
yeah,
the current agency I'm with is very, very, very big on mental health, and it's wonderful. And they bring them in if there's something. So we had an officer involved shooting, I think almost 2 years ago now. And by God, I mean, by the time the scene was still clearing up and I was zoned in, there's peer support standing here. There's a peer support standing here. And I'm like, oh, hi.
right.
You know,
it's like the Men in Black. They're showing up everywhere.
yeah. And they're like, are you okay? And I was like, I mean, I haven't even processed this, but yeah, I'm good. I did this all for 4 years. Like, it's nothing to me right now. And they're like, well, I'm here if you need to talk. And they come in an hour later and they're like, how are you now? Like, those agencies were really great with that. So I'm lucky that I have that support. And you know, anything can bring something back, you know. And it's funny because I hadn't worked anything crazy at this agency. It's slower. It's not as high crime. And the officer involved kind of brought back those 3 deputies that died, or the 2 deputies that died. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I never processed that. I was so new and I never really processed that. And I was like, I'm okay. But it did kind of bring it back for a minute. So then when I went and did my mandatory talk with the psychologist, she does both of those agencies, coincidence. And she's like, weren't you supposed to come talk to me about a rape call? And I was like, oh, we're not talking about that. And she goes, yeah, let's talk about it right now. She's like, you were there when the deputies got killed. You were there for this. You were there for that. What is this unpacking? And I talked to her for an hour at least. And I cried to her about that call. And I was like, I handled it really well. And she's like, no, I think you're doing fine. She's like, but you should have came and seen me. I'm like, you're right. I should have. I wish I would have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have held on to it for so long. But it's a lot. And not everybody's meant for it. And nobody should feel bad if they're not. This takes a different person.
Right, yeah.
I like to say we're all a little fucked up in the head because it takes somebody special to be able to listen to what we do and still function as much as we do.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's not for everybody, but the people who do it, I think, are amazing. Every single one of them.
I fully agree, yes. And again, I'm just glad that you had some form of support there, and just everything that was going on. It's amazing. I've got 2 questions left for you as we're going into kind of the wrap up of this, which has been phenomenal to be here with you and to hear your story and just to learn more about you and the things that you've gone through, your experience, just all of it. What are some things that have been, I guess, rewarding, out of this profession, or something that you're proud of?
I would say very recently, we had a teenager at a gas station. A guy dropped on his bike, just on the ground. And, she ran over and I got her to get attention, and CPR was started, and he was saved. And we got to recognize her, and it was the coolest thing. The city gave her a Lifesaver Award, and she got another award from the doctor from the hospital nominated her. And she was like, maybe I'll dispatch one day. And I was like, there you go.
Oh,
I was like, don't do
goosebumps.
it. But those kind of happy moments of she was like, you were calm and you kept me calm. She's like, I was freaking out, but I was calm. And it's funny enough, that girl that gave me that hug was the other dispatcher on the other side that gave her CPR instructions. So we work for the same county.
What?
And so we got to go give her an award together, and I got one of those big hugs. And it's just little things like that, those happy moments of you made an impact in someone's life. There was a guy who was carrying a mirror inside of his house, and it broke and went through his arm, and it cut his artery.
Jeez. And
the medical side of me that worked for 6 months doing it was like, oh my God, he's bleeding out. And his wife was a nurse. But you can't nurse your own, just like us. Mm-hmm. I freak out in my own situations. I'm calm for you, but not for me.
Right, yeah.
And so
I think we all go through something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, hey. And she's like, oh. And I kind of snapped her back. And I was like, you need to tie his arm. And I was waiting for medical to connect at this point. And she tied off his arm. And I had gotten on the channel, the radio channel. And apparently my voice changes when I'm serious. My officers know that about me. And one of the officers was like, man, I was up there going pee at the station, and I heard this call, and it's right here from our station. He goes, and the way your voice changed, I said, this man's going to die. He goes, and I was like, all right, break's over. And he went to the call, and he put a tourniquet on him and saved his life.
Wow.
The surgeon said, had he bled out anymore, he'd be dead. And he was like, your voice told me I had to go. And I was like, oh. I didn't expect that at all. And this man wanted to meet us, so I got to meet him. And that was pretty cool. And I don't usually want to meet calls. Mm-hmm. I like being behind the scenes. And it was pretty cool, though. He was like, my wife said to tell you thank you. He's like, you were harsh, but she needed it. It was like, I just mom voiced her. It's
right,
fine.
Yes, yeah.
So, those kind of moments are rewarding, is when you get those good guy letters. When somebody was like, you were my calm, I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to be. But it makes you feel good. I've gotten those a few different times where somebody wrote in and they're like, this person helped me be calm in this awful situation. So those are my moments.
That's amazing.
That's what keeps me going.
Be proud of that. Those are exactly those good moments where, like I was saying earlier, you've got all of these crap calls that can happen. But you think about those moments, you're like, this is why I'm here. This is my why. This is my reason. Going into the wrap up of this, one last question for you. You've been in public safety now 8 years. You've experienced a ton in these 8 years. If you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning of your career, now, this isn't to change anything, because we go through a lot to be where we're at today, mm-hmm. right? Whatever lessons we may have learned. But if you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning, what would you tell yourself?
Be prepared for anything all the time. Because I had to learn that the hard way. You get relaxed in dispatch and you're kicked back, and then something happens. It was more of anything can be anything. I had a noise complaint that turned into an armed disturbance with an officer. So I think make sure you're prepared for anything to happen at all times.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So very much for being on, for sharing your story, for what you do. Thank you very much. This has been amazing. It's been an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
So for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, you ever want to be a guest on the show, the easiest way to do all of this is to simply go to links.co/IM911, and that is links with 2 i's.co/IM911. You'll find everything there. Email, social media, where to follow, where to hear the latest episodes of Within the Trenches podcast, as well as the Imagine Listening podcast, where you can find the free link for the Trenches community, where I have over 200 hours of free continuing education for 911 professionals. You can check it all out there. Once again, it is links with 2 i's.co/IM911. This episode has been sponsored by In Digital, as well as Rapid SOS. Shout out to subscribers as always. And this can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as X and LinkedIn Live. There are clips on Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, as well as TikTok. And then you can listen to the audio 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years, I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But Imagine Listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.